What's going on, everyone? Welcome back to my channel. I did a little series on the buying process, and if you haven't seen it, feel free to go to my channel, click playlist, and you'll see the buying process and all the videos I did on it. So today, even though I talked about it a little bit in the purchase contract video, I'm gonna be making my own separate video about your real estate deposit, what it means and how you can get it back. Because you know, when you're putting down 5, 10, 20, and I've even seen $100,000 deposits on higher price point homes, you should know how you can get your deposit back if you want to back out of your real estate transaction. And I'm gonna highlight these points today. So that is what we're talking about today, your real estate deposit. So before we get started, my name is Deja Spearman. I'm a Connecticut Realtor. If you have any questions regarding buying, selling, investing, or relocating to Connecticut, feel free to reach out to me. I would love to help you out. I'll put my best contact on the screen. So what is your deposit? It is basically a percentage of the purchase price that you're giving in good faith, and it also shows the sellers how serious you are about going under contract with this property. So I'll talk about the good faith a little bit later when we talk about contingencies, but when the seller accepts your offer, you have 3 calendar days, calendar, not business, calendar days to send over your deposit. So if they accept the offer Friday, you have Saturday, Sunday, and Monday is the latest day that you can give their deposit. Now, even though in the contract it says, you know, when there's signatures on it, that the contract is executed and complete, the sellers do have the opportunity, if they do not receive your deposit within 3 days, they could go with another offer. So it's like, basically your signatures bind the contract, but your deposit basically seals it in a sense, if that makes sense. So once they receive the deposit, and they will usually tell us where they want it sent. Sometimes the lawyers hold it, sometimes the brokerage holds it of the listing side. So that all depends, but usually when we go under contract, they will give it to us like literally right away. Actually, probably before so. So that is what you have to do. You have to have that check ready. And if you are out of state, you just have to overnight it. I would not do 2 days. You definitely have to overnight it. I know it's gonna cost, depending on where you are, it might 15, 17, I'm not sure, but it needs to be here as soon as possible, because last thing we want is for that 3rd day to come around and they're like, you know what, we're going with this other offer, because they're showing that they're serious, they're ready, and they're gonna deposit literally that day. So that's definitely step number 1 with your deposit, is 3 calendar days from the accepted offer, get it in at the requested location of the listing side. Now, remember, your deposit is also part of your down payment. So say you have a $50,000 down payment in total, you take $15,000 of that and use that as your deposit. You're still gonna be putting down $50,000, but 15 as a deposit and then 35 as the rest of the down payment, combined 50,000. So how can you get your deposit back? All right, so you give your $15,000, they're holding it in an escrow account that they cannot spend or anything like that. How do you get it back? Let's talk about your 3 contingencies. 3 ways that you can back out of the contract, 3 ways you can get your deposit back. So first one is the inspection. That is the first contingency. So what happens during the inspection? We hire a licensed inspector to check out the structural, mechanical, electrical, plumbing, and safety of the house. They will give us a report, and with that report, you can look through it, and then and if there isn't anything too major to you, you'll be like, oh, you know what? This is something we can take care of either down the line or do ourselves. There's nothing that wants to be done. There's option number 2. You can be like, we would like to request some of these things done. So there is a sheet called the NOUI, so Notice of Unsatisfactory Inspection. And what happens is you cross it out, you put, I would like the sellers to fix these things, X, Y, and Z. Now, with that situation, the sellers can either agree to fix it, maybe a credit, or they're gonna be like, no, I'm not fixing anything. Now with that, you either can be like, all right, well, I'll just continue on in the process, or you can be like, well, I want these things fixed, and if not, I'm backing out of the contract. And if you do decide to back out of the contract, you get your deposit back. Your third option is just completely backing out. You can, like I said, either you do nothing, which is you just, I'll just deal with the problems if there even is any, if they're not major. There's 2, you request the sellers to fix them, they might or they might not. And 3, you can just completely back out of the contract because there's too much in the house that, you know, it's just too much for me. I don't want to deal with it. That's a lot of money, or X, Y, and Z. So we're just gonna completely back out of the contract, and you have the rights to do that. And with that, once we put in that sheet saying X, Y, and Z, they would like to back out of the contract, you get your deposit back. So that is one area that you can get your deposit back, which is if you're unsatisfied with the inspection, you get your $15,000. So the second way that you can get out of your real estate contract and get your deposit back is the appraisal. That is step 2 after the inspection. So with the appraisal, a licensed appraiser will come out, which is a buyer's expense also. A licensed appraiser will come out and see how much the house is worth. So we would love if the house came in higher than our offer. It doesn't matter how much, we just want it to be higher. If it comes in lower, then we have a slight problem because the lenders will only give you the money for the appraised value of the house. So say putting in a house that's $300,000, it's only appraised at $275. Where's the extra $25,000? And with this, 3 ways you can do with this. You negotiate with the seller to lower the price, because at the end of the day, you offered $25,000 over the appraised value. So will the sellers negotiate with you a bit to see if you can reduce your offer amount? The second way is both you and the seller can extend your appraisal contingency to have time for a second appraisal, just to make sure the numbers are right. So say your offer is off by $75,000, you're just like, maybe let's have a second appraisal just to make sure, we're not seeing things wrong. So you can also extend it and see it like that. And if the second appraisal comes in maybe even closer or maybe the right amount, doesn't matter. But that's what we want. If the second appraisal comes in a little bit higher, a little bit lower, you can still negotiate with the sellers if they're willing to. And then 3, as long as we put in the appraisal contingency clause, hey, if it's way too low and no one's willing to negotiate or anything, you can back out of the contract as well. So we basically have 2 ways to do it, which is either negotiate with the seller, extend the appraisal contingency date, or you can just completely back out. The third way that you can get your deposit back is your mortgage contingency. Throughout the process, you have your inspections, you have your appraisal that went well. If something changes or within your life, so say you lose your job or X, Y, and Z, say you take out a line of credit. I did make a video on this, which is 5 things you shouldn't do when you're under contract. I'll put it in one of these corners. Definitely click and watch that. But there are certain circumstances that can happen where you're not actually able to obtain a mortgage. And with that, you can get your deposit back, definitely, because when the loan officer finds out, which is after all this, what more can you do? You don't have the money to buy the home. So that's really the third. There really isn't too much to that, because if you can't obtain a mortgage, you can't buy the house. So if that happens, then you can get your deposit back as well. So just keep these 3 things in mind that, say you go through your inspection and you're just sitting on it, you're dwelling on it, you decide to go through the contract, but say while you're waiting for the appraisal, you're just like, you know what? I really don't want to do this anymore. It's either you can back out, but you can lose your deposit, or you can wait for the next contingency, which is the appraisal or mortgage, and you can back out then. So definitely just keep those things in mind. When you're buying a house and you have a hefty deposit, you do not want to lose that. $5,000, $10,000, $15,000, you do not want to lose it. Might as well talk about ways that you can lose your deposit. And so the ways you can lose your deposit is basically backing out of the contract outside of those contingency dates. So once again, when you have your inspection contingency, we have about, let's say, 7 days from the time your offer was accepted, 7 days, and then you have 5 days. I don't think I mentioned this before, but you have 5 days from your inspection to those 5 days to negotiate with the sellers. Once again, 5 days between the inspection to negotiate with the sellers. If you say on the 6th day, you're just like, I don't want to do it anymore, you're kind of SOL. You can lose your deposit. So like I said, wait for the either next contingency. So that is, and then same with appraisal, same with mortgage. We have 3 options to back out. If you go outside of those 3 options, you can lose your deposit. So just be wary of all that when you go back out of the contract. And luckily with me, my team at eXp Realty, we have like calendar invites and reminders. So it's like, hey, we had our inspection today. We now have 5 days to negotiate. Then we have tomorrow is the last day. You can negotiate. So definitely, like I said, your deposit is very important when you're having tens of thousands of dollars on the line. So you always want to keep it and just know your rights. So that's really the video. Hopefully I explained it well enough so you guys understand, but is 3 ways to get your deposit back, and those are the ways that you can lose your deposit. So I hope you guys found some value out of this, and if you did like this video, make sure you hit the like button below and make sure you hit subscribe so you're notified of when I post my next video. I thank you guys for watching, and I hope